Hey everyone, it is Sean and Dave here from Saturday Morning Cartoons. We want to thank the following people for going to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons and supporting our show. So a huge thank you to Derek Haynes,
Dr. Jason Woods,
Jamal Newman,
Melanie Harker,
Allison Keene,
the one and only Sean Paul Ellis,
and the amazing Dave Trumbore.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, it might sound kind of weird that we are thanking some familiar people and ourselves in this list, but we want to let you listeners out there know that we are not just asking you to support us through Patreon. We are actually putting our hard-earned dollars into the show as well. So we just want to say thank you to those who have supported, and for anyone who can't but would like to help out the show in some way, feel free to share our Patreon page within your social media circles. It would really help a lot.
So thank you guys. We appreciate you going to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons to sponsor and support our podcast. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the nation of Wakanda, I'll be your co-host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, the one and only Ginger Panther, it's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
David, I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm doing real good, man. It's Marvel May. How can I be upset?
Oh, man, you can't be. I mean, not after coming off of Guardians of the Galaxy last week.
Yikes.
With a huge disappointment. So yeah, how could you possibly get upset?
You still think huge disappointment?
Yeah, it's still a disappointment for me.
Interesting. Well, it's a good thing we're moving on then, I guess.
But, I mean, anybody who's listening right now, you should have, a couple days ago, as of maybe yesterday, enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, you made the correct choice, the live action choice. So well done.
Yes.
Well done. If you're a fan of the animated series, let us know. Like maybe things shape up a little bit better in the next go around, but to each their own.
I'm a hard pass for right now.
I've been watching Gurdanes of the Underwelling, so I love the Gurdanes.
I keep hearing Gurdanes, and I keep hearing the word Bourdains, like Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdains. Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I have a feeling like that's just like a group or a collective of 5 really drunk, coked out New York chefs making deliciously tasty meals
As a superhero team.
Yeah, and then later on having like a travel show where they talk to you about all these crazy places and experiences that they have, and you go along for the journey too.
While drunk, while everybody's drunk.
And while drunk.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Well, how'd you feel about Wolverine and the X-Men then? Let's just recap because we had that as well. Lest that one slipped by you.
That one was okay too. I wasn't a huge fan of that as well. I actually
wow,
think
we 0 for 2?
Yeah, I actually think so far for this month we are 0 for 2 for me. I think I have been a hard do not watch for the first 2 Marvel cartoons.
Yikes.
And I think that for Wolverine and the X-Men, I think it was just because there was a lot of stuff that was kind of shoehorned in there. And I didn't like the animation style. Just wasn't a big fan. Sorry, guys.
Wow, I'm really curious to see what you thought about this particular show tonight then, because the animation style is very unique. And
I know.
There's only 6 episodes, so guess what? They cram a lot of stuff in.
They do cram a lot of stuff in.
We shall see. Since I said Wakanda, obviously that means we're talking about
Black Panther.
Yeah, buddy. Why don't you give the folks out there a brief, ever so brief, history of this particular TV series, which you might not even have known existed.
Yeah, I didn't know, and I was foolish for not being aware. Black Panther is an American motion comic and television series by Marvel Knights Animation, Titmouse Inc. in partnership with Hoodlin Entertainment and BET, based on the popular Marvel Comics superhero of the same name. It was the first animated television series produced by BET since Hey Money. Each of the 6 episodes of the series was 20 minutes in length. The series was broadcast in the United States on BET in November of 2011. So not that long ago. Not super long ago.
No, but there's a couple things here, right? I have no idea what Marvel Knights Animation is.
No clue either.
I've never heard of that. I've heard of BK Knights, right? I've heard of Knights of the Round. I've heard of I think the Los Angeles Knights from Any Given Sunday. I might have that wrong.
Hold up.
They might be the Sharks.
Let's go back to the first one.
Okay, let's back
Knights, aren't they sneakers?
Yeah, they're sneakers. Did they have lights?
Kids?
I can't remember if they had lights or not.
Were they the first light ups?
BK Lights were the light ups.
BK
it was
Lights.
British Knight Lights.
Oh,
BK
okay.
Lights. If you guys have a pair of pristine size 12 BK Lights out there, I don't know if they made them.
You looking to make a You looking to make a purchase?
I will wear some BK lights. No. You send them to me and I'll wear them. Not gonna buy them.
Not gonna buy
Throw some Pop-Tarts in and we'll think about, I don't know.
Ooh, you going Pop-Tarts? You're not going toaster strudel?
I don't know. I'm still divided. There's a schism in the church of the pastry gods right now, and I don't know which.
The toaster pastry?
Yeah. I don't know which.
Guys, we have been starting this, and this is a long-standing inside joke that we've been really happy about.
Just me and you.
Toaster strudels or Pop-Tarts, guys? We want to know. You got to let us know.
We're going to put a poll up. And then we're going to make you fight against each other, and whoever is left standing at the end of it wins.
Gets to do the DIY icing. That's the whole goal.
That's the prize. So guess what? Sean is clearly church strudel because there's no DIY
taking sides.
Pop-Tarts.
What if we did this as a total sidebar?
Mm-hmm.
Toaster strudel with the frosting as the bread of the sandwich, Pop-Tart in the middle.
Blasphemy.
That seems like too
Blasphemy.
much, but I'd eat it.
Blasphemy, abomination, sacrilege. You cannot. I can't even think of what unholy abomination that would create.
I seriously see your brain short-circuiting from the
Vein.
heresy that I just came out of my
Heresy
mouth.
is
It's
another
like,
good one.
what is this?
A Hexen beast, if ever I've heard one. Surprisingly, no toaster strudels or Pop-Tarts in Black Panther tonight. I was kind of let down by that.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
But what was in it? Can you give us a little synopsis, Dave?
Oh, yeah, sure. So if you're not familiar with Black Panther, this was obviously like a great introduction to the character, to the world, to the comic series. So here's kind of the background for what's going on. Upon becoming the new Black Panther after the assassination of his father, T'Chaka, T'Challa deals with the jealousy in the Wakandan royal court while looking for the man who killed his father. Unbeknownst to Black Panther, Klaw, the man who assassinated T'Chaka, has assembled a group of villains consisting of Batroc the Leaper, Juggernaut, the Vatican Black Knight, and the Russian radioactive man to help him take over Wakanda. There is a crazy cast of characters in only 6 episodes. Like a shitload of people show up. Way more than you're going to see in the Marvel live-action movie Black Panther. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
A, they don't have the rights, the movie rights to most of these people who show up. And B, it just would like come out of way out of left field to have, you're going to have Klaw. You're going to have Ulysses Klaw because, what's his name? Andy Serkis is going to be there.
Sure.
You're definitely not going to have Juggernaut.
Not going to get Juggernaut. We've already had 2 iterations of Juggernaut, I believe, from the X-Men movie.
I think just the one. Didn't we just have the one? Vinnie Jones?
Was it just the one?
Just Vinnie Jones in the 3rd X-Men.
Okay.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
We've had Batroc the Leaper.
We have had Batroc the Leaper.
We have had him. He was George St. Pierre.
Yeah. He's basically like a glorified stuntman. I mean, he did great. Not knocking him at all. It's just the part that they gave him to fight against Cap in Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. In and that was also one of the scenes too at the beginning of Winter Soldier where I don't think I took a breath for about maybe 7 minutes because there was so much fun, exciting fighting that happened at the beginning of Winter Soldier. That whole intro
sequence was great. Yeah.
And then the entire fight with Saint Pierre as Batroc. I actually had to go back and watch that scene because I was like, in my brain, I was like, he did this role justice. I'm positive. Let me rewatch him do this character justice. And then to contrast it with what we watched tonight, it's very, very silly.
It's very silly and very different. But I actually like what they did with Batroc in this cartoon. And we'll get into that. Yeah. Because each of these characters kind of gets a chance to kind of make a stamp on exactly what they were doing. So this is only 6 episodes, like Sean mentioned. I watched all of them. Sean watched the 1st and the 6th because we kind of bookended it. I just really wanted to know like what was going on. I was really into most of this stuff, so I just wanted to check it out. But before we get into that,
and I'm actually, I'll say this: I'm insanely jealous that you did. I wish I had watched the other 4 episodes. There's a good chance that when we're done recording this, I will go watch and There's a good chance I will go back and watch 4 episodes of this to actually complete the series.
And not to spoil my recommendation or not, but I'd suggest it. Now, the only reason that I was able to watch it is because I watched them all on like double speed. So everybody kind of talked like this, and the action was very fast. I don't recommend that. It kind of ruins the experience a little bit, but I still kind of got the general gist and the. It works because it's a motion comic, right? That's the only reason it works.
But you lose all the grit and like the like dozens of packs of cigarettes that must have gone into all of these voice actors, like into their throats in order to make all of these deep growls that are in this show.
100%.
Ah, buddy.
Oh, buddy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's the sacrifice that must be made. But I did get to watch all 6 of them, so that was kind of cool. And I got to hear this sweet ass theme song 6 times plus the outro.
Let's talk about this theme song.
Let's get to it. What do you think?
Yeah, this theme song was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a nice blend of hip hop, a little bit of funk, and then there was like some kind of like weird electronic voices. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Sean, you have criticized weird electronic robot voices before, and you are 100% right.
Yeah,
I have thrown an incredible amount of shade and shit every time we hear things like for Bots Masters and some of these awful, awful theme songs. But for this one, it was used in such a minimalistic manner that it felt like it backed up sort of the funk portions of what was going on. Sort of like if it was like P-Funk All-Stars. Like if it was a George Clinton jam that was coming out, I would have been like, yeah, this sounds great.
Makes sense.
I'm 100% on board with this. Yeah. And it gives you a really nice introduction to a couple of the characters that are extremely important. And I'll be honest with you, when it flashed up with Storm as Jill Scott, I fucking lost my mind.
Why, for Storm or for Jill Scott? Because I feel like we have 2 different.
For both.
Oh, for both.
One, if you've never listened to, and this was my introduction to Jill Scott, was who is Jill Scott, and the entire album that she has. She is a phenomenal singer. And just, I don't know, from watching a lot of her music videos, like when I was younger, I was just like, she also seems like she's got an incredible sense of humor, and she's just an awesome person in general.
Sounds like it.
So suddenly to see her as Storm, I was like, oh my God, I would have never thought this in my life, but this is fucking perfect.
Well, it's just bizarre that like Storm showed up, because me not knowing much about the Black Panther like comics background, I mean, I know more about Storm, or knew more about Storm than I did about Black Panther coming into this. So I had no clue that she was just going to show up and then to play such a pivotal part in the whole story. Pretty cool.
I had no idea. Yeah, really, really, really fantastic. And then it just sort of kind of at the end, it just kind of has like one single line that just kind of like leads you out that sort of sets, I guess maybe it sort of sets the tone for Wakandan policy.
Pretty much.
Or policy for Wakanda, which is just simply get out my way. And I was like, oh fuck.
I love it because it's, and I apologize to him if he's listening and I'm saying his name wrong, but it's Djimon Hounsou, who you've seen in a number of movies. He's actually elsewhere in the Marvel universe too, I believe. But he's in like a number of movies over the last few decades. Very well known, very accomplished veteran actor. I don't know how many voice roles he's had, but this is definitely an interesting one. And again, going back to what we were saying before, like I love that this was on BET of all things. Just the fact that it was on that network. I mean, it makes sense for the theme of the show and the mythology of it. I'm amazed that it did not get like a wider audience than just like BET. I'm not saying BET doesn't have a broad audience. I'm just saying it's strange that Netflix was around. It wasn't quite what it is now, but it didn't make its way into like the modern culture. It wasn't something that like everybody knew about. Because even the two of us who were like cartoon crazy, I had no clue it was on BET. I had inklings that it existed, but I had no clue it was on BET. Yeah.
I was aware of it out in the zeitgeist, but I had no idea that this was an exclusive production for BET. Like I'm glad that I found this now, but I would be remiss if I didn't say for Mr. Hounsou.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where else he is in the Marvel Galaxy?
He was in Guardians, wasn't he?
It's because it's very frustrating to me because we talked about this character.
Yeah, it was I can't think of his name now.
He's Korath.
Yeah, Korath, the Pursuer.
He's Korath
from
the Pursuer.
The first Guardians, but he didn't do the voice for the cartoon, right?
No, okay. Which is why the cartoon was awful and why he is so phenomenal in the actual live action Guardians. Yeah. So,
it was modeled off of his appearance at least.
His character, yeah.
But I mean, good on him. So just my 2 cents real quick on this theme song. I love that it has a style and kind of a swagger that matches the hero. Right, it's kind of got like a tribal feel to it, but it's also got that funk, a little bit of hip hop thrown in. It's definitely got like a nice energy to it. Like I had no problem listening to this thing 6 or 7 times, because I listened to it like a couple extra times just to kind of like get in the rhythm of it. And then the outro has a bit of it too. The outro I actually thought was like more energetic and was like that was used for more of like the action beats and action sequences, and you get that theme repeated throughout the series, and it's really cool. It's like it's got a good. There's a good drum beat to it. There's a cool kind of just like refrain, even if they're just saying T'Challa or if they're saying Black Panther. It's just got a good rhythm and a flow to it that it really just works. It works for the whole thing. And I love the roll call because that really helps.
Yeah.
That really
helps. There's so much to the Wakandan royal family that, you know, we don't really get sort of more of a formal glimpse. Like, we've seen them in other cartoons, and we've seen Black Panther in other cartoons, as well as also now in live action. Yeah. And it's just one of those big things where you're just kind of like, oh, but I don't know, like, the inner workings and some of the details with them. I think we saw them in the Avengers cartoon that we watched last year.
Yeah, I think briefly.
Very briefly. Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of a fun, and this is a great way to reintroduce everybody who's going to be very relevant in this story. So,
yeah, and it really does go through like the major players. Oh, and they make no I don't know what the word is, but they definitely come right out and say, like, this is set in Africa, by the way. Like, they just do like a pan over like a continental map of just like, boom, here's Africa. And then they just drop you right into it. You're like, all right, dummies, in case you weren't paying attention, this takes place in Africa.
And I'll say this too, like, it definitely seemed like my final thought on the entire theme song was that it had a really great kind of 70s vibe to it, with sort of a more of a modern appeal. There was something about this that kind of was immediately reminiscent of blaxploitation.
Yeah, it's got
films
kind of that
from that
feel
genre.
To it. Right.
And it, because like a lot of those theme songs had like a roll call in it as well, and so this
and a funk to it,
and you know, and it was something too that like it was dedicated in the sense that this theme song was dedicated animation to kind of doing that roll call and that introduction, and sort of, you know, paying heritage to the roots of where this story comes from in Africa. And so all of this is just really fantastic.
Yeah, and there was something else I wanted to mention too. The technology too. So they actually show off some of the technology, right? So it's not just the characters. One of the things that I absolutely love, what?
We're going to get into so much of the technology, Wakandan technology tonight. It's so crazy.
We definitely are, but I want to touch on it here because one thing I absolutely love about this story is that, and we'll get into the background and the history of Wakanda when we talk about the plot, but essentially they've had like advanced technology for way longer than anybody else on Earth, right? So take the most advanced military, the most advanced science, research, engineering, whatever. Today, Wakanda had that maybe 100 years ago. Like, that's kind of how far beyond everybody else they actually are. So I love that they show in this intro, they show him on like a floating, like a hover throne. They show him in like this little like hovering jet ski war mobile, whatever these things are. But they show the tech. But at the same time, they like have a very tribal culture. They have a very a culture that's associated with like nature gods and the panther gods and a lot of sort of the mystic sides of things. So it's a really cool interplay of those two things. And that actually comes across in the intro and the theme song, which is crazy. That doesn't often happen. All right, something we can probably spend a fair amount of time on is actually the animation style tonight. Usually we don't get to talk about it too much because everything we see is kind of the same. There might be a little tweaks here or there that set things apart, but this, I think, is like the first motion comic we've talked about.
I think that this is one of the first motion comics that we've talked about. Yeah. And kudos to them for being such a great motion comic. You know, I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the last couple months, there has been a lot of criticisms that we've had of different cartoons where it seems like they only hit some of those keyframe animations and they didn't do whatever the filler was in to kind of flesh it out and make it look like there were more frames per second. This one doesn't necessarily have to do that because of sort of the art direction, the detail within the art direction. Reminded me of I don't know if you ever read like 90s Image comic books.
Oh yeah.
But like for some reason, I don't know if you ever read Death Blow. This is a real weird reach back. But like a soldier that was in like sort of a special ops kind of like Wetworks team. And it was something where like it was mainly in black and white with a little bit of like an emphasis of color.
Was it kind of like a Punisher?
A little bit,
like
yeah.
Punisher knockoff.
But it was so highly detailed, like in all of the faces and all of the body and just like those specific lines and shading that they had that were in there. And even maybe Spawn to some extent.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that cape and those chains and the work with the shadows and
And they did a lot of that for our titular character that we had in this. And so I felt like a lot of that kind of came across from like older 90s Image comics. But for being a motion comic, fuck, there were moments where I actually had to Google this and be like, this is a motion comic, correct? Because it had more fluid moments and action sequences sometimes than some of these other professionally made cartoons that actually had the ability and budget to
like full
create
frames.
more.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I loved it.
I thought it was really cool. It seemed like at first it seemed just like a way that you can be like, oh, motion comic, you're saving money, you're skipping on animation. And you can make that argument for a number of things. But honestly, for this, it was like a really cool way to bring the story to life. And then as you're watching it, you just forget that it's a motion comic. Like there are very few moments where you're just like, where you get pulled out of the frame because there's like a janky bit of animation or like a weird edit or like a character just looks off. Like, no, the voice work is solid, but the animation is equally solid throughout. It's weird how well this worked, actually. It shouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it did. I mean, maybe it should have worked, and maybe it should have continued to work.
Yeah.
You know, for a second season.
Oh, I would have loved that.
I mean, I feel that. I mean, they set it up for it. I mean,
this is just like an introductory season. I mean, a lot of crazy shit happens, but
yeah.
It's just like an introductory arc for T'Challa's first kind of like crisis as king, as newly crowned king.
And you get a lot of supporting characters that come into this show. Throughout the entire 6 episodes, there were probably more characters that come into this than like the entire arc of all of X-Men the animated series. I feel like they're digging deep. Like there are some deep reaches with with Radioactive Man, like with all these people. Like I had to go back and look up some of the histories and just kind of Wikipedia some of these characters because I was like, where are they finding all these people from? Like Black Knight?
That one threw me for a loop, and I loved him because I thought he was great, but I was just like, the fuck? And this is like the 4th iteration of that character, I guess. He's gone through a number of different cycles of various Black Knights over the years, but I was just like, what's Martin Lawrence doing here? This is crazy. Why did he show up? Ridiculous. That's a throwback for the 90s kids out there.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like for the tone that is set in the theme song to then carry that into this art style, I felt like this was a really cohesive piece of art that I really enjoyed watching. There was nothing about the art style, even when they brought in those characters, and we can talk about them in a minute. Yeah. Even when they didn't feel like they were like what my expectation. Like they didn't match maybe what my preconceived expectation was. I was still really excited to see them, and they brought them in such like an interesting way that I was like, yeah, I'm on board with this. I want to watch this fight, especially in the first episode.
Yeah, and definitely in the last one too, where just like all kinds of crazy shit happens.
I feel like the entire last episode is just beat after beat after beat of bananas, bonkers, crazy shit happening over and over again, and you're just like, well, I mean, they're like, it's all coming to a head at this point, buckle up, buckle the fuck up. Like, here we go.
And then one thing I want to touch on the art style real quick. I love that they use so much shadow and light. They use a lot of interplay of like real deep, heavy shadow, but also light and light effects and sort of light direction. At the same time, because this is a motion comic, doesn't mean that it's flat. You're not looking at like a 2-dimensional flat page. There's so many layers and so much depth to these things. And like the landscape scenes where you've got like reeds and trees and grass and hills and people walking through them and sky in the background and mountains in the distance. There's so many layers to these that you don't feel like you're watching a motion comic. You're watching all that depth just like a normal, really well-produced cartoon.
And like you were saying at the beginning about like, hey, you may do a motion comic because you're saving, because you budgeted for animation. Right. Like it could be a financial reason, but there is so much detail in everything that's in here. It completely makes up and pulls you in to the world that they've created. So it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is this might actually be the most brutal show we've watched, at least for Marvel May. There's a fair amount of blood, and there's like heads on spikes, at least in the early goings. They toned it down a little bit later. There weren't people
killing a lot of Nazis, a lot of dead Nazis.
Yep, everybody loves Nazis.
Jinx, owe me a Nazi.
Speaking of Nazis, I owe you one Nazi. There's a lot running around, so I'll get you one. Let's talk about characters. Let's talk
All right,
about
let's get
characters.
into them.
Who's one of the first
Let's
people
get
we're
into
introduced to? I'm curious to see who you picked up on first.
Oh man.
Did you pick up on racist
we-
military man Stan Lee?
No, I thought the first, I mean, like the first main character, because we have some like a tribe that's attacking Wakanda very early on.
No, that was just more for like to set up the specter of the Black Panther, I thought.
Which is fine, except that it's extremely brutal.
Yeah, super brutal. I was gonna save that for more like plot, but I mean, if you want to talk about them as like characters, that's fine.
100%. I would say, I guess it would be sort of the moment. Was that Stan Lee?
It was definitely a Stan Lee cameo, because he's like Stan. There's like a. It's funny that they showed this tribal scene in the beginning, and then they cut to the White House, because then they just show this like man, the military guy decked out in all kinds of like military brass. He's got the full uniform and the regalia on. But he's just kind of like, these Africans can't tell us what to do. We're the United States of America, for God's sakes. And I was just like, that's Stan Lee, and he's being super racist. And he created the character, which is crazy.
Well, because he doesn't say Africans.
What does he say?
He says savages.
Yeah, I kept it clean. I can't remember what racist
he
old
says
Stan Lee
savages in this. Because like as watching this, I was just kind of like, well, because this is like a reoccurring. What was the latest like spoof black exploitation film that came out?
Oh God, the last one I can remember is Black Dynamite with Michael Jai White.
Yeah, Thank you.
Yeah,
Black Dynamite,
love.
Which is fantastic. Yeah. But I love the fact that like as they were heightening progressively in that film from like local to regional to national, it all goes up to the president. Yeah. And so the fact that this like begins with the president with a conspiracy and like a racist General Wallace who's just like, those savages don't know what they're doing. I don't know why he sounds like the mayor of Townsville.
It fits. Like, it works.
It fits. But like he's just getting really into this, and then he like turns to, was it Mrs. Reese?
Yeah. So this is like Dondi Reese, who also sometimes goes by the name Condoleezza Rice, because that was essentially what she was modeled after. When Condoleezza Rice was Secretary of State under George W. Bush.
And she was, what was it, Alfre Woodward?
Alfre Woodward, who also did the Queen Mother, too. So she also does T'Challa's mother, yeah.
Which is just one of those things, because, like, she is the only person of color in this entire room, and, like, you just see Stan Lee, General Wallace, just backpedal, and she's like, shut up.
Yeah.
He's like,
she's like, well, I wasn't talking about you, clearly.
Like, shut up. Shut up.
Yeah. She's like, get ready to backhand him. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great to kind of see, for this show that, like, right out the gate, they're like, they are not fucking around. Nope. They realize that there are problems, and they're not pulling their punches. And I was like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah. And for the rest of the series, they really don't, like, they're called savages. They're called other names, like South African names that are very derogatory. At later point, you probably didn't see that, but there are other points in this. They never drop the N-bomb as far as I'm aware of, but they definitely do drop some other slurs.
Jesus.
Usually just like the villainous characters. So it's like the white villainous characters are always dropping slurs. That's how you know they're villains. But yeah, they don't mess around with it. Like, there it is. It's right out in the open. And I love that they address it straight off the bat. My first major character that comes in, though, is Everett Ross, who's played by Martin Freeman in the live-action movie. And you got a brief introduction to him, I think, in Civil War, Captain America Civil War. But he's going to feature heavily in Black Panther. So Everett Ross, I don't know if they ever actually name him, but he's essentially the expert on all things Wakanda for the U.S. So he's the guy that comes in.
He's the nerd in the back that's just like, I have some information about Wakanda. And you're like, well, come on up to the table here, partner.
He's a super interesting character, though, because he doesn't back down. Like, when he kind of lays everything out, he's the exposition machine for the viewers who are watching this for the first time, right? So he's explaining everything about Wakandan history and culture and military advancements and technology, the fact that they've never been defeated, the fact that they've never been invaded, the fact that they've never been like culturally usurped. They still have their own religion based on Pop-Tarts and toaster strudels. I mean, he knows everything about them.
Oil supplies, but it's not like they don't actually use.
Yeah, they don't use it. It's used for like a lubricant or whatever. Yeah, they have their own energy supply. They have the vibranium mines.
This is David Bush. This is David Bush who's doing the voice for Everett K. Ross.
He was great. And I
Yeah.
loved, he had one cool little moment where he's talking about all this stuff. And he's basically saying, like, no one has been able to destabilize them, but nobody's an ally to them either. So we've been trying to establish, like, ambassador relationships and alliances with them, but it's very complicated. And the military guy kind of looks at him and he's like, why don't we just send in a black ops team and do things the old-fashioned way? And he's like, yeah, that's not going to work. And he's like, do you have any military experience, son? We can send in the best of the best. And he's like, you tried it and it didn't work. Like, I love that he just stands up to this dude because he looks like a pencil pusher. He looks like an accountant, right? He just has all these facts and figures. He doesn't look like he's super able to, like, take care of himself, but he's still got, like, some steel in his spine. And I really like that. And I love the way that they set up, like, it doesn't matter what you throw at these guys. They have never been defeated. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about what happens after that in the first episode, which was a great intro. Any other characters you want to talk about off the bat?
We've got we should talk about and maybe mention Princess Shuri.
Sure. Was that Kerry Washington? Is that right?
Yeah, that was Kerry Washington.
That's crazy. Dude. Like, back before everybody knew her from live action TV. Yeah.
Yep. This was Kerry Washington playing Princess Shuri, who is T'Challa's sister. Right. And just, I had to, like, go back and, like, listen again. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that is Kerry. Like, she's got such an incredible voice that to, like, hear it in this character, I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
And they give her a lot to do too, so it's not like she just gets to run around, be a damsel in distress. Like, she gets to fight. No. She's like a warrior princess kind of thing. So yeah, she gets some cool stuff.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably the main. I mean, I think maybe those are their main. I want to say heroes.
Let's talk T'Challa then before we get into the plot. So we already talked about Djimon Hounsou, fantastic. What's your kind of impression of T'Challa? Where is he at in kind of his stage in life at this point?
Sure, he is really trying to understand what it takes to fill this role of, because as it is mentioned by Everett, the Black Panther is essentially the Wakandan Pope, President, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff in one.
Yeah.
So it's not a role that you can rest on your laurels. That's some hardcore shit.
You also can't rest because once a year you can be challenged by literally anybody for the crown. So if you are weak, ineffectual, or just not a good leader, like, you got a year and then somebody's coming for your head. Which I wish we would do here.
You have to think, like, in Wakanda, it's got to be one of those things too, where it's just like, hey, if I'm a young buck, like, and we have an older Black Panther who's in there, like, at some point they're going to get up there, and I might have a chance. Yeah. And that seems crazy. I mean, the role is so well revered within their society that I mean, it's a demigod.
It is. It's like basically a god at this point, which we'll find out in the 6th episode too. Yeah.
Which is important to note, and it doesn't come without some of its problems. One of them is obviously making T'Challa a target.
Yes.
Which is sort of the biggest problem that he's having, is because that's the biggest conflict that he's having outward, is the idea that now he has stepped into this role and he is a target. Internally, it's, how do I fill my father's shoes? How do I fill my father's shoes now that he's dead, and he's just got all these shoes that he's given?
He's got a lot of, like, just empty shoes, and, like, how do I fill my father's paws?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also, he's got this conflict where we learn that his father was assassinated, but he has obviously, like, deep emotional ties to that. But it goes beyond that too. He has, like, a very close relationship to that moment. So he's got one, part of his mind set in the past where he's trying to avenge his father's death and find the people responsible. He's very focused on that. He's currently got all these responsibilities that have to do with the kingdom, but he's also he's kind of shrouded from looking forward towards the future too far, because he's preoccupied by all this stuff. And there's great moments with his family members where they say, like, look, you've got a responsibility to everybody. Like, not just you, not just your vengeance, not just your father, everybody in this kingdom. The present and the future. The past is not going to help you. But the past really comes to bear in these 6 episodes. And that's why it's really a shame we didn't get to see a second season, because these 6 episodes kind of wrap up his past and then put him on the path to what he's going to do in the future.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we didn't get a second season. But anything else from the characters you want to mention quick before we jump to this first episode?
No, let's get into this first episode.
Yeah. So do you want to say anything more about kind of that introductory tribe, how they set the stage?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, in like the most brutal fucking way possible.
Yeah.
We have this outside. We don't really even, I don't believe, know what tribe they are.
No, they're just kind of introduced as like, I don't know if they were from Naganda or if they were just random tribal people.
Yeah. Well, let's just put it this way: they're about to be dead tribal people.
Yeah, they picked the wrong fight.
Because as they are walking in, they are talking about, that they're looking for a good fight, and they're really excited about this battle. And then one dude next to the main guy who's giving you a lot of exposition just gets snapped up in this trap, and you're just like, what the fuck?
And he's just like, he's like broken in like a scarecrow pose. There's like, he's done.
So if you were to imagine a bear trap, okay,
like
I think everybody has frame of reference for a bear trap, but like Dave said, instead of grabbing like your ankle, or maybe just like your quad, it was to impale your sternum.
Yeah, it was like your spine. We'll just grab your whole spine and hold you here a little bit.
And this thing is called the Panther's Teeth, and it just snaps this dude in half, and you're just like, whoa. Oh no, run!
Go back,
get out!
But before they can, there's like a hail of arrows that come up over the hill, 300 style. They blot out the sun. And these guys are done. They're toasty toast.
Yeah, these guys are out
because of the Black Panther.
Yeah,
I love that.
So that's your introduction.
Yeah.
It's just how brutal.
Without ever seeing any Black Panther, any Wakandan, it's just like
not a single person
from afar using our technology. They just like eviscerated these fools. Pretty great.
Yep.
Pretty great. And then so then we jump to like sort of present day where they're at the White House. We were talking about how Ross kind of has this discussion with the generals and the brass. And then for this first episode, guys, we're going to kind of do a high level here. Just do a quick introduction because the 6th episode is crazy. There's so much stuff that happens. But essentially, Ross says like, look, we sent ops in there before and they failed. Who's the first guy they sent?
The best of the best. It's Captain America. They sent Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
It's just like crazy badass.
Like, what?
Because they throw him out of a plane.
In 1941.
And he does superhero landing, which is awful on the knees.
Yeah, and then he falls into a pit.
Yeah.
Twice.
So he has this. So he gets stuck in this pit. After he realizes that all of the Nazis that he came there to stop and prevent them.
Yeah, he was, he's a good American. He's going to help out Wakandans, these poor native, tribal, primitive people.
They have already decapitated and put their heads on spikes for every single one of these Nazis. And so you get a little bit of some story exposition where they're saying like, the threat that I thought that I was coming to stop, like the Wakandans had already found out about it and were hip to it like a couple days prior. Like these heads were not fresh. They had been sitting there like a couple days.
And the person who tells him that is Black Panther. He's literally standing over the pit that Steve Rogers is in. He's just like, "What's up, bro? I knew you were going to be here. We got this. You can go home now."
Yep.
They have a great standoff though, where Black Panther has a really cool line because it sounds like this is still like early Steve Rogers, right? Like it sounds like he's kind of early in his career.
This is like pre-Civil War. Because it does say in preface that this is like as he was building his reputation.
Yeah, and especially because he had like just gotten the superhero serum, and it was like before he, was frozen and all that stuff, man at a time.
Right.
Because this is World War II, so it's what he's supposed to be doing. So Panther, he looks at him and he's like, Steve Rogers. It's like, I've been watching you. And someday you're going to be a symbol for your country the same way that I, the Black Panther, am for Wakanda. But it is not this day. And he's like, before then, I have a lesson to teach you. And he hands his ass to him. I mean, it's a good fight that goes back and forth. There's a couple times where Black Panther looks like he's been knocked out, but he comes back. And it's a really good back and forth fight. And that's a pretty cool thing to see against, Captain America, the Golden Boy.
And it really wraps up at this moment where Steve Rogers just goes, "This is dangerous times and you need to choose a side." And then fucking T'Chaka just lands one on him And as he's passing out, he just goes, Amandala. And in that moment, you just see Rogers just be like, hit the mat.
Yep,
like
done.
it was like, whoa.
out.
Like you don't know what the word is. They never translate it. It's not subtitled, but I'm pretty sure it means like Chris Tucker style in Friday. Like, you got knocked the fuck out, man.
It's that, but it's also like we choose our side. Like he's like, I don't have to pick a side. I choose Wakanda. I choose our people, which is a theme that's played throughout. Yeah.
Yeah. They say that a lot.
Who else did Black Panther take out back in the day? The first family of Marvel Comics.
Oh, he took out Fantastic Four.
Took out the Fantastic Four. I love that. I love that he was just like, by the way, he also took out the Fantastic Four. And they're like, all right, we get it. Like, chill out.
But I mean, like, in all honesty, though, I mean, they're not that. I know that they're like the Marvel first family, but let's be honest. It's not like they were not like they were
They're
well
like
known
the Brady
for fighting
bunch of
bravado.
Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you just took out like a suburban housewife and a 9-to-5 dad. Yeah.
I don't know if you just. I hate to say it, but like the Fantastic Four curse is feeling like a real thing, guys. They've never made a successful movie. They're all awful.
Look,
I even thought with Miles Teller this time, I was like, maybe they'll pull this off. For Michael B. Jordan, I was like, maybe they can do this. No, it's really bad.
Look, The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie you're probably ever going to see.
100%.
So just watch that.
100%.
Or wait for the sequel coming out in like a couple of years. All right. So then we kind of cut to, again, current day, and we learn that once a year, a challenger can challenge the throne and take the title of Black Panther. And it's way more than just a title, right? It's way more than just the king. I mean, you've got that badass suit. You're now in charge of like everything in the country. You also have these kind of like mystical powers that come with it, which we see a glimpse of in a later episode. But for this first go round, it's essentially we see the current Black Panther fighting a number of people who we kind of get introduced to.
And the way that they set up this fight really kind of reminded me of sort of like the heavyweight, like the world heavyweight championship between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali,
or even just like a
Rumble in the
WWE
Jungle.
championship. Yeah. It's like
oh my god,
yeah.
I mean, it was really fantastic.
It's a big event for everybody to come out to and watch. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like and just the reverence on everybody's face when sort of out of this giant panther statue, like the maw just begins to open. And just T'Chaka is just like sitting there in, just like pristine form.
I think that was actually his uncle at this point, because T'Chaka had died earlier.
Oh, that's right.
It's very confusing because they don't say, like, I think there's a quick line where he calls him his uncle or something, but
yeah, it was Uncle Sion.
Sure, we'll go with that.
I think that's who it was. Yeah,
because it's like Tashawn is his son, who actually he vies for the crown at one point too, but he gets beat.
Yeah.
So we've got a cousin to the crown who gets beat. We meet Shuri, who like runs past the guards who are now going to get fired. She tries to enter the fight, but meanwhile the current Black Panther is battling this like massive mountain of a man, and he gets tossed out of the ring and lands on Shuri, at which point a masked man jumps into the ring and starts battling.
Because at this point, the two announcers on the side of the
there's
the
literal
ring
like ring
have
announcers for this. Yeah,
have just been like, T'Chaka, the Hamlet of Africa, where is he? And I was like, oh my god, I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But what a great way to just kind of drop a quick literary reference for anybody who knows that family dynamic and just be like, yeah, okay, I'm up to speed on exactly what that is.
Yeah, so you're wondering, like, T'Challa is supposed to be like the heir apparent, and he hasn't shown up, and people are like, well, where the hell is he? So this masked man shows up, and within a few seconds has defeated the current Black Panther, and then they're like, who is this masked man? Who could it possibly be?
Which is also really hard to throw out a Shakespearean reference like that and not think like, oh no, is he suffering from like terrible mental illness and he's about to kill everybody?
Yeah.
Oof. Yikes, guys.
Bubble, toil and trouble.
Yeah. But we get T'Challa. This is where he takes the mask.
Yep. So he takes his mask off. Hey, guess what? It's the prince. It's the heir apparent. It's T'Challa. He's the new Black Panther. Episode 1. Which is pretty good. I mean, that's a cool like setup. Not a lot happens in this first one other than him.
Is it the end of the episode?
Well, not quite.
Because we got a little fucking stinger.
We got a stinger. We got to go back to the White House where these bitches
Yeah.
are like, well, Wakanda's cool and everything, but we really need to get up in there. So what are we gonna do?
Yeah. To which all of a sudden, then you have this kind of like mad scientist
In
character.
New Mexico, what? I don't know.
I don't get.
I don't know where this came from.
I don't know.
But there's like a secret military lab installation in New Mexico where what's going on?
Where they've been able to reanimate a dead soldier.
Sure, as you do.
And this guy kind of awakens with sort of like a scream.
Oh yeah, he's not
at the
thrilled.
very end of this. No, he's not. He's pissed off. And it's something that it happens very quick, and you're just like, okay, what is it? Again,
cut.
I just want to point out that if you're gonna do a pilot, these guys really hit these marks. All right, they hint at past and a broader history. Yep. You get a real distinct sense that there's an understanding of the atmosphere and specifically what they're hunting for. You get distinct characters for everything that's going on. Like you get I wouldn't say that they got to the point early, but you get a lot of framing context for what the rest of the show is going to be.
Yeah, it's enough
and
to
then you
ground
get a stinger
you.
ending.
Yeah, it's enough to ground you and give you an idea of just like, because if you've seen a movie or a TV show before, you're just like, cool, I have an idea of all the players and what's going on, just not the specifics yet, which is what you want.
Right.
And then you get a stinger. Sean, let me ask you this: if you get woken up in the middle of the night, right?
All right.
What's your first reaction? Yeah. Probably not feeling great.
I usually scream.
You scream like bloody murder, right? Normal, like everybody.
Yeah, I have night terror.
Now let me ask you this.
I don't.
Let me ask you this.
I don't want to trivialize.
You're going to now, but let me ask you this: if I implanted machine guns into your hand, like if I took your hands, implanted machine guns into your arms, and then woke you up, how would you respond?
I just begin firing
as you
with
should.
A smile on my face,
as you should,
with a sick fucking smile on my face. I just start laying waste to whatever mirror or bulletproof glass was in front of me. That wasn't a question mark. That was a solid statement.
That was a solid statement because
of
end of episode 1, that's where we're left. And you're just like, the fuck? I didn't know who this was at first. I didn't realize until later who these characters were supposed to be.
I didn't figure it out until episode 6 when I was like, oh,
I think they name
makes
drop
sense
them.
now. Yeah, they do. But they don't talk about, I guess that's confusing, is that this character that we're referencing, the stinger at the end of episode 1, I used to read the standalone comic of the one character that they had that was in it from Marvel that I really enjoyed, because this was like a time where there was like a couple really weird offbeat superhero characters. I think it was like Nighthawk, and the character that we're referencing is Deathlock. Right. And I think actually Deathlock showed up in like 1 or 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
He was on S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while. It was
season?
what, J. August Richards? I can't remember if that's his exact name or not.
Like
guy
that.
from Buffy and Angel. Really good.
They kind of like really interesting and a great like backstory to it. But in this, it turns out, well, this kind of brings us into the last episode.
Yeah, but before we get to that, I'm gonna give you guys kind of like some
here we go.
Here we go. So some crazy things that happen in between, and some of the important plot points to help episode 6 make sense. So here we go.
Let's do it.
Between episode 1 and 6, you learn that Klaue is Ulysses Klaue, who you later learn, yeah, I know, right? Who has an awesome claw that like this thing like changes shape, and it can be any weapon that he wants, and it can like pick locks and hack computers and all kinds of, it can like detach and crawl off on its own, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh boy.
So you learn not only that he was the one who assassinated T'Chaka back in the day, and he does so through a pretty intense scheme, which involves him like laying underneath the floorboards of a Swiss hotel for an entire week, waiting for the royal family to show up so he could lay in wait, so that at the right moment he could burst through the floorboards and just start firing guns. It's insane. But anyway, you learn that he's back. He's got a new plot to kill the Black Panther and take over Wakanda, partially because he has South African relatives. He has South African ancestors who, when they were colonizing South Africa, were like decimated and just torn apart by the previous Black Panther and their superior technology at the time. So he's got this kind of like racist family vendetta that he's acting out. So that's his whole thing. Here's the team that he puts together. Yeah. Juggernaut, Batroc the Leaper, who we got to talk about in a second, Radioactive Man, the Vatican's Black Knight, and his Pegasus horse named Aragorn.
Yep.
And a character by the name of Cannibal. Now, Cannibal is originally a big fat man who looks like a kind of like a
Like
gangster.
the Blob?
Nah, it looks kind of like a New York gangster type. It looks like a Tony Soprano, but he's locked
Okay.
up in like an ultramax prison. So
Okay.
Claw breaks him out of prison. The first thing they do is visit a Russian prostitute. When he visits a Russian prostitute, he pays like hundreds, thousands of dollars just to kiss her. And then when he kisses her, they transfer bodies. So whatever his power is, he can transfer bodies.
I get
So he's now
the disconnect finally
Yep.
makes sense to me
Yep.
now.
This will make
All
sense once we get to the 6th episode. That all kind of makes sense. So Cannibal is this character who can swap bodies with a kiss. So now he's this banging ass blonde Russian prostitute, as you do. Over the episodes, you get some cool appearances, right? So Storm makes an appearance. The first thing she does is just make a phone call to T'Challa, which doesn't get through. So they're just like, we've been waiting 10 years for that phone call. And the poor guy who answered the phone was just like, I didn't know. I'll put her through if she calls back. It was such a weird scene. But you learn that they had a history. When T'Challa was going through his coming of age, they have what's called a walkabout. Except in the case of the Prince of Wakanda, you have to walk the entirety of Africa, right? So he has to walk from like north to south, all of Africa. And when he did, he actually met up, well, Storm was a thief. Aurora Monroe was a thief at the time, and she tried stealing his only pocket change that he had. So he caught her, but then he ended up helping her and the other slaves escape from their owner, and then they had sort of a romantic relationship, which explains what happens in episode 6. You also get appearances from Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, some crazy stuff. Let's see what else comes up here.
Oh, we've mentioned Cyclops and Wolverine.
Yep, Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler. Yep.
Yeah.
They just kind of show up
Like,
and then don't really do much.
Yeah.
They just kind of hang out. So you get it. There's this funny kind of like, do you remember the lifestyles of the rich and famous with Robin Leach?
yeah, Robin Leach.
Robin Leach.
Welcome to these multi-million-dollar homes.
Champagne, wishes, and caviar dreams.
And caviar
God damn it.
dreams.
So they do one about this.
Best.
There's a rival neighboring continent to Wakanda called Niganda. It's like Uganda, but Niganda. And the leader of Niganda is named Mbutu. And Mbutu is basically like Idi Amin, right? So he's a warlord.
I love their
Hmm?
Yeah, I love their operating system.
It's great. It's Mbutu, not Ubuntu. Ubuntu.
So Ubuntu.
Yeah. So Ubuntu.
Okay. So Linux.
So Linux. So we've
Linux
got a
operating
crazy
system.
African penguin running around. And he's basically like a warlord, just like taking bribes and like living off the land, and his people are suffering and starving. But he always wants to take down Wakanda, right? So they do this profile on this guy. There's a great line from Juggernaut once they line all these guys up and get ready to enter Wakanda, where literally the Black Knight has rounded everybody up. So he's rounded up the Nagandan army. He's rounded up Juggernaut, Batroc, all their team. And the Black Knight is giving them this crazy racist speech about how they have to save the savages and force God upon them to save them from like their own way of life. He's like, we have God on our side. This gets crazy because he's like Catholic and
Jesus.
he thinks it's literally like a holy crusade for him. So he says, not all of you have the same reasons to fight that I have, but we have God on our side and we will force God upon these savages. Something to that effect, which is just like, holy shit. And then Juggernaut has an amazing line where he's like, sometimes you got to kick a little ass in the name of Jesus. It was a fucking amazing line. It's pretty good. Juggernaut also gets a cool scene later where he throws a cow at a plane and crashes it. That was pretty fun.
Oh my god.
And at this point, I think is when the Deathlock army, because guess what? There's an actual army, starts walking. They drop off of a naval ship and they walk along the ocean bottom and they come up on shore of Wakanda and they start making an assault that way. Now, the reason that they're there, they're the U.S. military assistants, right? So they're supposed to be helping to repel the Nagandan soldiers and Claw's team. So that is everything that happens leading up to episode 6, which is why episode 6 is so completely insane.
Dude, it is so bananas, Foster.
So everybody is in Wakanda at this point, and everything's going to shit. Shuri's trapped underground. Radioactive Man has basically made like earthquakes ripple throughout the vibranium mines, so that the whole of Wakanda is like unstable. There are planes flying through the air. There's Black Knight flying on his horse. There's Juggernaut running through the town. There's Claw infiltrating the areas and taking people captive. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on. So now catch me up because I'm all lost in everything. So what do you see at the opening of episode 6?
Isn't it just Storm shows up? She's like we have like people boarding an airplane, and so we have Cannibal
Yes.
like boarding, and he's getting ready
with the ambassador.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Sean.
they're getting ready to show
Yep.
up. Storm is presumably in like one of the X-Men.
She's in the Blackbird. Yeah.
She's in the Blackbird, and so she's calling, and she finally gets through, and
Like a
they're just
switchboard.
like, if you come in to Wakandan airspace, you're considered an enemy. And she goes, I'm just going to put this on autopilot, and I'll come down on my own means. And the guy in the switchboard operator is like, what the fuck are you talking
That
about?
was pretty cool.
To which she just hits a button and then just jumps out of
Yeah,
the
she just
plane
flies
like,
out.
I got this. You're like, good,
Yeah.
cool, I got this. We have Radioactive Man destroying a mine.
And I should mention, not a mime, by the way. As much as you people out there want to destroy a
mine.
mime or a mind, it's a mine.
mine.
A mine. They said a mine. A little Lord of the Rings throwback. I should mention that on the plane is Cannibal in disguise of that Russian prostitute who is pretending to be the wife of Radioactive Man. So that is why Tashawn is bringing him back to Wakanda, because they think that she's the only one that can help stop this assault.
Right.
So he actually means well by bringing her back into Wakanda, does not know that she's actually an enemy sort of covert spy. Yeah.
Sure. We get Radioactive Man, who he's in a vibranium mine.
A mine, they called it.
A mine.
A mine.
And so, I will say this though: vibranium is the only made up anium that I like.
So you don't
It's
like.
the only
let
one
me
that
go through
doesn't-
a couple.
Yeah, do it.
Gundanium,
Fuck yourself.
adamantanium.
God damn it, I do like that one. All right.
I like adamantium. I had to add an anium at the end of it.
Yeah, I like adamantium.
Just like regular
But,
old
una-
titanium, you don't like? It's been in like space shuttles and shit.
No, I mean like unobtainium.
Oh no, I'm with you on
That's
unobtainium.
that's a go
I
big
wanna
fuck yourself.
punch Cameron in the face for that one.
Yeah, that's garbage. I understand why he did it because it's like a mining joke about things that
but
like you
come
can't
on.
get
There
to.
needs to be a writer's
guess
room
what?
at that point to just be like, nope.
You're fucking lazy.
Mhm.
Like with your lore.
Unobtainium
if
because
you
we
wanna
can't
spend-
obtain it. God damn
If
it.
you want to spend $1 billion on CGI, then maybe also spend $1 billion on some writers.
Yeah. At least
You
50
dumb
bucks.
dumb.
Give me 50 bucks. I'll give you 20 minutes and come up with
Something.
better anything.
Yeah, anything would have been better. James Cameronanium
Yeah.
would have been better. I
Camerononium.
don't give a shit.
Camerononium
Camerononium.
would have been great. Camerononium. Done. 50 bucks.
Cameroons. Cameroons. Just call them Cameroons.
Macaroons are delicious.
Those are so good.
Mhm. What's Radioactive Man up to in the mine?
in the mine? He's basically just he's causing earthquakes and laying waste
And melting
to,
faces.
to the entire thing. Yeah, melting faces, and he's and also the princess is down there too. And so Kerry Washington is desperately trying to escape. While Radioactive Man is in hot pursuit.
Such a scandal.
Get the pun?
Such a
Hot
scandal
pursuit.
down there in the mine.
Yikes.
Yikes.
We meantime, we also have an entire army of Deathlocks that are just fighting Wakandan soldiers.
You get just blasted in the face. Like these just like shambling corpses with machine guns and laser eyes strapped to them, just getting like decimated. But who cares, because they're just reanimated soldier corpses. That was such a cold moment at the end of the 5th episode. There's like a Navy SEAL team leader. He's talking to Everett Ross, and he's basically like, we should probably tell you our assets that we have here. This is the Deathlock army. And he's like, just a bunch of poor grunts who died in service and have been repurposed and recycled for the greater good of America, or something like that. Something that was like so cold that he's basically just like recycled bodies of dead soldiers to continue their like purpose of carrying out war orders. It was really, really cold and kind of spooky, actually. Yeah.
We've got Claw.
Yep. What's he up to?
We got Claw taking T'Challa's mom hostage and making threats. And then, we've just got T'Challa on a flying bike, just riding through
zooming.
the air, just zipping through the air with the greatest
Where's
ease.
he off to?
And that's where is he not off to? One, he is rewriting security code while flying through a war zone. to prevent Claw from continually hacking everything. But
so that's a good point, because I should mention that he's actually on his way back from Naganda.
Yeah, where'd he go?
So he was in Wakanda, decided once all this was going on that he was going to take out the Lynx penguin in the neighboring country for all the...
I get that reference.
Yeah, for all this stuff. So take out Ubuntu. And so he literally just flies to Naganda and leaves his country defenseless, right? I mean, like, they've got their own defenses. He's like, he tells his like second in command, he's like, you know what to do. You don't need me here. He goes off and basically just like beats the hell out of Mobutu, and then Claw comes on the vid screen and just like, I got your mom. What are you gonna do about it? This was a really cool moment, because the mom was basically just like, I've lived a good life. You do what you have to do. And T'Challa was just like, look, even if I make a deal with you, you're gonna kill my mom anyway.
Yeah.
Even if I make a deal, because then, and Claw says, well, I can also destroy your entire country because I can do like Earthquake of the Vibranium mines. He says, look, you're going to do that anyway. So here's what we're going to do. Even if you kill my mother, even if you destroy my country, you've just signed your own death warrant. Yep. So he basically is just like, I don't give a shit. Like, all I've got to do now is just kill you and I will be appeased. That's pretty ballsy.
It's ballsy too, because then the mom with a gun to her head,
claw to her
is
head.
Just like, yeah, with a claw to her head is just like, you've signed your death warrant. He's going to kill, like, whatever you do to me doesn't matter. You're dead.
Super dead.
And she's like, so go ahead. And you're just like, whoa, dial it down, mom.
And then Claw's just kind of like, well, I mean,
worst family vacation ever.
That's pretty bad. So at that point, that's where Claw kind of like tries to hack into the security system. And then, like Sean mentioned, T'Challa does this crazy Panther thing where he's like, nope. It's like, I got this. This is my shit. You ain't gonna be up in here.
Guys, I've worked a lot with computers.
This is how it works, isn't it? Like a weird Panther interface?
This is oddly not how cyber warfare actually takes place.
You don't turn into like a giant virtual reality Panther head and scare people off?
Sorry, brah. Doesn't quite work that way. Also, I've never heard of a flying motorcycle that can receive all of your security code, which then you can reprogram it on the fly by just dragging your finger back and forth across a slider. And I was like, guys, that's not. I was like, ooh,
that's how it works.
I know what they're doing. I mean, I know that this is like one of those things where like they're trying to show how badass Black Panther is. It's just really hard as a techno like file to just be like, that's not. That does. I mean, it works for this. That's fine. I get it. Like, I have to suspend my disbelief a little bit, but like, come on, guys. Like, he's on a motorcycle flying across country in a war zone, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna write some code. Oh no, compiler error. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous.
I think this is a good point to mention that Sean's actually going to be leaving this show for a little bit. He's going to be taking an internship at a tech company in Wakanda. So we really do appreciate, all your support over these coming weeks. He's going to learn a lot. It's going to be really cool. He's going to be flying motorcycles and dragging his claw hand across different things. So it's going to be cool for him. He can't really tell me too much about it, but it's going to be good times.
A lot of fringe benefits that come with it, though. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to turn myself into a digitized Panther.
Sweet. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I should actually mention that that's kind of a cool throwback to this moment where T'Challa kind of communes with the Panther god, right?
Okay.
He has this kind of mystical experience. It's kind of a dream. They play it off as a dream. But this happens a lot in the comics where he can go to a place, sort of meditate, and talk to his previous Black Panthers. He can talk to like the central Panther god. He can talk to previous Panthers, kind of like Avatar style.
I was just about to say, now I know where Avatar got it. Cool.
So
that's pretty rad.
So he can talk to them and get advice, but he has to go through like this Panther god first, which is a massive like white panther, which is kind of odd. But when he goes in and he's just like, I need advice from the Panther god, and the Panther god's just like, you are not ready. And it literally just bites him and then just tears him limb from limb, and then throws his limbs and his torso out of a cave. And the Dora Milaje, his I'm probably saying that wrong, but his his guards, his women warriors that are always with him, they kind of like literally piece him back together and then stick him back together and wake him up. But it was a really cool scene, and it was kind of reflected in this the hacking scene, just with T'Challa being on the larger, more pantherous side of things. So it was a nice flip for him. Yeah.
You mentioned the White Panther. I'm just curious. This is like a sidebar in my brain, but I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what the like what the history is behind, because Marvel has another character called White Tiger,
Yeah.
which is essentially the female version of Black Panther. I gotta figure out where I had to figure out where her
Yeah, I don't know that.
where her history lies with this, because there's a lot of crossover with a lot of the same
Sure.
villains that Black Panther has, but I'm just like, is she from Wakanda? I mean, it would make sense, but at the same time, like,
Who knows?
every
with
black
this?
person in the Marvel universe can't fucking come from Wakanda,
Well,
guys.
yeah, I mean, if it was another Stan Lee, Jack Kirby creation, then they could have just like filled out the Wakandan world with other. I mean, there are a lot of other like
they could have.
Man Ape's another character.
That's right.
Yeah, there's some other crazies in there. But
Speaking
speaking of crazies, bye. What's going on back in Wakanda?
we've got
You want to go back to the
we've got
mines? What's
princess.
going on in the mines?
Yeah, we've got the princess. She's climbing out. She gets to the top. She finds out there's this sword up
Do you
there.
know where that
assuming
came from?
I don't know. It wasn't in episode 6,
Okay.
so this might be a filler thing for you. But I'm assuming it's a vibranium sword.
It's actually it's just called like the black sword or the black blade. I don't even know if it has an actual name. It can just like cut through anything, and that's all they've said about it because it comes from the Black Knight. So when the Black Knight was defeated by T'Challa in the sky, because he's not actually like holy or like godly powered or anything, he has a bunch of tech, just like Black Panther does. And Black Panther like scanned him on his hover bike. It was just like, oh, I see all your technology, so I can like activate it and shut you down. So he basically like takes him out. The sword, they do this long sequence of showing the sword kind of fall and embedding itself in the top of that ridge there where Shuri is able to get at. And it can cut through anything, including
Radioactive Man. So Kerry Washington picks it up, gets threatened by Russia, and then Kerry Washington just cuts Russia into two, and I'm pretty sure that's when Mr. Gorbachev knocked the wall down.
It all adds up.
That's your history for me, guys. The more you know.
Done.
But yeah,
Dust that off. Mine solved.
She cuts Radioactive Man right in half, and you see him fall into the vibranium mine, and like the bottom part of his body is just spilling green goo that doesn't seem to flow like regular blood. It seems like if you had radioactive blood, which the first question that I would have is like, how dangerous is it to be around him
real bad.
being so radioactive? Really bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Real
Real bad. I hope Shuri's like at least gonna like relax and take some iodine pills for a while.
Something. Just go take a little beach vacation. Hey, do you know how he arrived at the mine, by the way?
I'm sure he probably just jumped out of an airplane and shot straight down like a bullet.
Kind of. They fired him.
Am I right? Am I right?
Missile, because the missile hit
so
and they're just like, well, it didn't
great.
explode. And they're like, maybe it wasn't a bomb. And it opens up and he just steps out.
I can't believe I almost nailed that. That's
done.
fucking. Oh,
Nicely
damn
done.
it. I feel like we've watched too many cartoons.
Yeah, we've seen it all, guys.
When we can watch something and just be like, this is what I think's going to happen because it's
probably
the
arrived in a
craziest
missile.
thing in
Yeah.
the
Yep.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Perfect.
All right. So what's Black Panther and Claw up to at this point? They're about to have another reunion of sorts.
So it looks like we get another Black Panther. Is this the uncle?
I think it's the uncle, and it's like just whatever remnants of like the guard are now coming after Claw. Yeah.
Coming after Claw, we get this really crazy moment where Claw blows off the leg of his uncle.
Yeah, he gets where
you're like, what?
He gets trapped. He gets pinned to the ground by the older Black Panther in the suit.
Right.
And he's just like, too slow, Claw, or some whatever. And then like Claw's claw changes shape and moves around like Apocalypse is supposed to be able to do. And it like re-aims its laser and just blasts the shit out of the uncle's like lower leg. Like it's gone. Like he just blasts it away. That was crazy.
Like it wasn't like the leg flew off into another room,
which would have been cool,
or something. Like the room, like the leg just doesn't exist anymore.
It's no longer with us.
It just vaporized this dude's like uncle's fucking leg, like right off. We get was it Batroc?
Batroc is fighting the Dora Milaje. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost keep wanting to say Party Rock, like the whole genre of that LMFAO. Yeah,
you can call him Andrew
Party
WK,
Rock,
whatever you want.
Andrew, oh my god, I love that. So Andrew WK is fighting with some people, but he's not like really doing a lot. He's more just providing commentary over top of what's happening, and every once in a while dodging people. Yeah, his fighting style is the zinger. Like every once in a while, you're like,
his fighting style, like in all actuality, is to like keep people away with his legs and then just like lean back and make one-liners. It's a very strange but very funny. I thought it was very funny in this.
Yeah,
instance.
it was well used, but there are times when I was just like, maybe a little less of the lips and a little bit more of the fists, buddy.
Well, I like it because like
Yeah.
the mother hits Claw in the nuts.
Yeah.
Because Claw says something to Batroc, like, I see you're having some trouble with the women over there. Like, oh, you can't even beat women now? And then she hits him square in the nuts, and he's like, well, it seems like you're having some problems of your own, and I'm fighting two of them. At which point, he's like holding them back with his legs, like with a table between them, and then like they just tear it apart with their swords and stuff. So it's a fun little sequence. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the moment I think we should do. We want to talk about like this main
Yes.
fight with finally T'Chaka.
T'Challa. Yeah.
T'Challa. Oh my
No, that's
god.
cool.
That's his
Back
dad.
from
So
the
with
dead.
T'Challa, yeah, right. Just well, I mean, that would make him the
That would
Hamlet
have been crazy.
of
It
Africa.
would've.
Then at that point, that would have been
Africa's
fucking
Hamlet,
fantastic.
T'Chaka. Yeah.
So we get Black Panther, the real Black Panther, showing up, fighting with Claw.
Showing up, he bursts through the window of the room that he's staying in, his mother's room. He flies through the window.
Yep. I mean, a complete disregard for the idea of like, let's add an element of surprise. It's like, no, look, we are in the midst of war. I have thwarted you in a cyber attack that you have tried to initiate.
I've told you that I'm coming
now,
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're now dead. And so it's something where like, during this fight, there's a lot of moments where we really see kind of this, where we see Claw's claw used to its full advantage, where it's choking the Black Panther, and he keeps making these quips where he's like, I could choke you, but I want to be able to like
look in your eyes or whatever. Yeah.
When I kill you, and I was like, dude, just choke him, and then
you planned all this
choke
shit,
him, and then
it's
kill
gone
him
real
afterwards.
well for a villain so far.
Yeah, don't shut the fuck up. Don't monologue with this, buddy. Like, you're real.
Well, and I love the fact that the reason he has that scar on the side of his face is because T'Chaka, he was in just like his dress robes. He wasn't in his armor. But when he was attacked, he had these claws, these like wire claws that shot out from under his wrists that he raked across Claw's face. It was really gnarly, actually. And then in that scene, I should mention this. In that scene, originally T'Chaka was supposed to be assassinated by a sniper across the way, but the guard of Black Panthers had put a thin microfilm of vibranium across the windows, so it was transparent, but it actually stopped the bullet and sent the bullet back because this stuff is that strong.
Oh.
So that prevented it.
Wow.
That's what caused Claw to bust up from underneath the floorboards and with guns blazing. So he killed one of T'Chaka's other kids, but T'Challa was actually there. So when he shot T'Chaka, he was going to finish off the rest of the family, but T'Challa like shot his arm. He shot Claw's arm. So that's why his arm was gone. So he jumps out and like goes off to an escape. He goes back to Belgium. They experiment on him, turn him into some kind of crazy war weapon with the claw, with the laser eye, and all that stuff. So that's kind of his whole backstory. So both of these guys have been angling towards each other for a very long time.
So in this final moment, Black Panther cuts off Claw's claw.
Yeah, and at that point, I was just like, well, that's done. Like, he's done.
But it's not, because suddenly this claw is moving around like it's from the Addams family, all right? And he's just like, you've made me even more deadly. To which then we get Black Panther gets shot in the back of the head by this arm that's crawling around, which then he pulls out the moves. He goes, I learned some things from my dad, and I put a thin piece of vibranium inside of my Black Panther suit.
Yeah, like the whole suit's covered in it,
Yeah, he's like, so your weapons are useless. And I was just like, oh.
And then he curb stomps that claw.
Holy, he just like American History X curb stomps the fuck out of I know. He just destroys that thing and then impales Claw.
Well, the funny thing is that like Claw is still unloading on him with his laser eye at this point, but it doesn't do anything.
But like there's no effect. And he just comes up, he grabs one of the giant Wakandan spears.
Do you remember what he asks him first?
Oh, he asks him if he has any children.
Why?
Because he goes, good, because if you did, I'd have to go kill them as well. And you're just like,
Holy
what a
shit.
cold stone fucking
that's
damn,
a cycle
dude.
of violence, though, you know?
Yeah. But yeah,
Claw
we've got
Jr.
one person cut in half. We've got one person impaled.
So Juggernaut,
Then
did you see how they took that how they took down Juggernaut?
I didn't see how they.
So
took
they
him down.
dropped bombs on him, and he's like, "You're gonna have to try harder than that." But they were actually just like knockout gas bombs. So he's just like in this cloud of gas, and he's just like, "Roar," and he just collapses face first on the ground, which makes sense for what happens later for him.
Well, it does. It makes total sense then in the prison. But we have this moment where Andrew WK is like kind of knocked out on the floor, and he goes, "I don't mean to intrude on a powerful moment. Speaking for myself right now, will medical attention be made available?"
I love it though, because like
So
you never get to see
good.
villains like that, right? They're either just like taken away and imprisoned, they don't get a one-liner, or they're just outright killed. And I love that he was just like, now that the jig is up, would medical attention be possible?
It was so fucking silly, but so enjoyable.
Especially because then they use him to like cart him away to the prisoner area.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's
well, actually, before that we get there.
Okay.
This, I thought it was going to get even crazier now because Black Panther is standing over the dead body of Claw, got Batroc hanging out on the side, and then the Deathlock army shows up. These guys are still on the move, and they show up, and you're just like, oh shit, what's going to happen now? And they basically come up to him, and they're just like, hey, what's up, bro? We're from America.
We're dead soldiers.
We're dead soldiers from America, and we're here to offer military assistance. We will sweep the perimeter. And Black Panther's like, hey, look, zombies, listen up here real quick. He's like, transmit this message back to your bosses. Like, you have an hour to get out of Wakanda, or we'll consider this a declaration of war. So then it cuts back to like the command room, and they're just like, all right, let's bring these assholes back. We've done screwed this up. So that was kind of cool. It was a neat way to wrap all that up without just like another crazy battle or just like, tearing apart defenseless dead soldiers reanimated into war machines.
You have to realize that prior to this, Storm is outside causing a wind, like a thunderstorm and a hurricane, sucking up and killing these Deathlock soldiers that are out there. Which lightning strikes, which is what knocks the plane that's carrying the prostitute and the ambassador out of the fucking sky.
They crash. So what happens there? That's important.
Well, in those final moments, prostitute sees what was it, his cousin.
So Tashawn sees his other friend and aide who's basically died in the crash, and then he sees the prostitute laying on the ground, and it's like, well, I better go check on her. I might get some, because they had a weird in an earlier episode. They had a weird sex. They had a weird thing earlier in the episode where he's just like, the assistant was like, everything about her checks out, and everything you see is 100% real, and the guy was just like, nice. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
And the assistant's even just like, if you have sex with her, he's just like, whoa,
he's
buddy.
Straight up like encouraging it. He's like, you've basically saved her life and her husband's life. She should reward you handsomely. Just like, you fucking perv. You just said her husband in the same breath.
Everybody just calm down.
Right, it's actually a big fat dude in disguise. So just cool it.
Yeah, right.
Golly.
But again, Tashawn is Black Panther's cousin. And so in these final moments, prostitute is just like, I have one regret, and she kisses Tashawn, and she becomes Tashawn,
which was, like you said, a cool way to set up continuing stories, because now you have like a spy essentially inside the inner circle, inside the inner ranks.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's really fucking rad.
Yeah. So speaking of Storm,
let me get these.
What's up with Storm?
Oh, Storm comes down, and she's like, she's like, hey, I'm glad that I'm here, and he's just like, oh, it took long enough.
Yeah, he's like, I've been here 10 years.
She's like, do you need a hand? He's like, I don't need a hand.
I need a face.
He's like, do you need a hand standing? She's like, you're pouring blood all over the place. And then they have kind of this like weird romantic moment where she carries him up into the sky.
Yeah, she like kisses him, and then they like spiral up into the sky. Yeah. Where are we going?
It was very like reverse Superman Lois Lane.
Yeah, it was great. And then he's like, where are you taking me? And she's like, for starters, let's go to the hospital, which is great.
Yeah.
And then we go to this prison wing where someone is wheeling Batroc in, and you see Black Knight, who has a great line. I don't remember what it was, but he's basically just like, no one can hold the holy night, or whatever. And then the crazy thing is like the prison cell next to him is where his dang horse is, and it's taking up like most of the prison cell. And then Juggernaut's next, and he's like, you can't think a measly cage can hold a Juggernaut. And then all the smoke comes out, and he passes out again. That was pretty fun. So you see all that, and then you see T'Challa and Shuri are reunited as well.
Right.
And that's kind of where that whole thing wraps up.
Yeah, it's kind of over. Kind of
Except
done.
for the go back to the White House. What's going on there?
Oh, they got some political decisions.
I thought this was funny actually, because it was like a
Really?
handover. I thought it was funny because it was like a handover from the previous administration to like essentially the Obama administration.
Right.
Right?
Because they have like an Obama-esque character just be like, well, don't worry, I'm gonna call.
Even before that. So they have Dondi Reese basically say she's talking to what amounts to Hillary Clinton because it's like a handover from secretaries of state.
Right.
And they're like, so you enacted a war on foreign soil in Wakanda and didn't like win. So now we're like super fucked. They're like, yep, but it's your problem now. Good luck. I hope you have better luck than the previous administrations did. So then Hillary like turns and just basically like, looks at Barack and is just like, well, I guess I don't know. And he's like, let me get T'Challa on the phone. I'll sort this out. And then
So
I
he has
love
this,
that he
like-
does. I love that he was just like,
Yeah.
T'Challa,
Hey, T'Challa.
let me talk to you.
Hey, let me talk.
That's great.
Let me talk to you.
What a great,
How you
what a
doing?
great moment to end that though, because like the whole thing has been Black empowerment, African empowerment. The fact that like this was a superior, I don't want to say race, but a superior civilization, a superior people, superior technology, way of thinking, everything. And then you have all these administrations from America, who's quote unquote like the greatest country on earth, blah blah blah, whatever, have been the world police for years and years. And then not only are they outclassed in every sense of the word there, but then you have the first African American president come in, and then it's at least alluded to that he can just like talk to T'Challa on some sort of level that no one in the previous seat could have.
Yeah.
Whether it's
pretty.
a fool's errand or not, we don't know, but the fact that he was just like real chill about it was just like, I got this. Let me just talk to him. It'll be totally cool.
It's a nice moment
Yes.
to kind of go out on.
It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then that cool
Great.
outro, which I love. I
Yeah,
like that outro.
exactly.
Any final thoughts before we jump into recommendations here?
No, let's do it. Guys, sometimes when we watch these cartoons, we have specific opinions. Other times, other people on the internet, jerks, have different
Mostly
opinions.
jerks. This first guy's not a jerk, though, I don't think.
Yeah. No, we get let's get into some love it or hate it. Dave, you wanna
I'm going to
kick
go
us
with
off?
some love it tonight because everybody needs some love it.
Ooh,
Yeah, get some love it. Lyle, love it.
I love it.
This is from Jujur 801697287 from United States, titled Awesome Black Panther. I thought the series was excellent. When is it coming to TV or DVD? How did you watch it if it wasn't on TV? Anyway,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
buddy?
Like just watching it in your mind palace? Great storyline. Great use of the motion comic animation style using John Romita's artwork. Great choice in the voice actors. I can't wait to see what they do with the series next. Oh. This is from 2010 too, so I apologize.
Fuck.
They need to adapt this into a movie. Guess what? Using the voice talent as the actors. Again, sorry to disappoint you. Jimon Hansu, Kerry Washington, Jill Scott. This is cinematic gold. I have never seen an animated series like this. Way to go, Reginald and Co. Reginald and Company. Reginald Hudlin, I think, was the one of the production companies. I think he was actually the lead writer, and he voices Barack Obama, quote unquote, president at the end.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. This needs to be on TV somewhere. BET. What? I'm guessing they helped develop it from the production credits or Cartoon Network's Adult Swim. Wow, that was great. Google it. 10 out of 10. My favorite parts are, where the fuck did you watch this if it wasn't on TV?
Yeah, and how?
And Google it.
I'm a little bit
Yeah,
concerned.
he'll be okay. Jajur 801-697-287.
Let's get into our difference of opinion that we have here, which is not
It's not
terrible.
that bad. The only one that was
we've
worse
got-
than this was essentially just
Yeah.
like a rehash of plot points, which we've already done for an hour and a half. So
Right. We've got a mid 10 from the US. This is early in 2011. It says, good series. Too bad they wanted to play politics in the
Wah, wah.
end. Art style was great, but the animation leaves something to be desired.
Mm.
The voice acting did a great job. Actors provided a living feel to all the characters. I was impressed with the selection of villains. This story is definitely adult oriented. Storyline has such depth and complexity. I enjoyed how the story did not become a predictable canned retelling of the origin of the Black Panther. The strong African nation that resolves its own destiny is excellent. unfortunately, to end the story with such a one-sided politics shows poor judgment for a story that should have remained nonpartisan. Still would recommend watching 98% of the movie, and that gets a 6 out of 10. I don't know that that's a 98% mid 10, but I'm going to give it to you because you wrote it.
You wrote it. You know what you're talking about, mid 10.
You wrote it mid 10.
You know.
This brings it to us.
It
Dave.
does. We're going to go to you, buddy, because you've been a little rough the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
both kinda have,
100% recommend
Oh,
this.
wow. Okay.
100% recommend this. Check this out. 6 episodes. If you are a Marvel comic enthusiast, and this is something that you want to check out, I think that this is a great primer and a great way to kind of explore a lot of the things within Black Panther, Wakanda, just sort of the origin of this country and its heroes. It's going to be great, kind of leading up to the live action movie that I believe we get next year.
Yeah, early February, I believe.
Early February of
2018,
next year, and so this is just really great. I mean, the pacing is a little bit frantic and crazy at certain points, but I really enjoyed it. I didn't feel like there was anything, even just bookending the series as I did. I don't feel like I missed anything, but I will still go back and watch those other 4 episodes.
Yeah, and there's no like filler episodes. Like they're all very important to either the internal politics or the kind of the war plan that's going on, or just like learning more about each of the individual characters. The only downside to this show, which I also recommend and echo Sean's comments, the only downside is that they don't really have the time to go any deeper into any of the mythology. You get to see glimpses of it, you get to see snippets here and there, but you really don't get to dive deep into any of it, and that would be really cool. I'd love to see another series. I'd love to see at least another season, because honestly, even the movie itself is just not going to have the time to go through all that stuff. So obviously the comics are available. I'd definitely check those out, especially the new run from Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is the newest award-winning author of the comic series. So definitely go and check that out as well. That's the most current sort of rendition, iteration, which will probably be echoed in the live-action series. So that'll be pretty cool. I believe it's Ryan Coogler who's directing that as well. So if you know Fruitvale Station, or definitely if you know, what was the last Rocky movie with Michael B. Jordan? I'm like blanking on the name. Creed. Yeah, if you saw Creed,
yeah.
These guys work great together. So you get to see it again for Black Panther. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we will probably revisit that, in 8 months, 9 months.
Oh, Creed? We're going to revisit
Creed. I can't wait till Creed is turned into an animated series, the Creed cartoon. The Creed Chronicles.
I just want to let you know, I'm going to teach you how to do boxing, David.
You can teach me how to do boxing? You're looking a little sloppy over there, Rock.
Sure, hey, I don't fight myself
you
anymore.
should probably lay down. You're looking... half your face is like falling off.
I'm just skin over top of his
Yeah, I know. Radioactive Man had a real effect on you.
Yeah, I am the law.
And Judge Dredd just came in. So now that Sean's back, before you go off on your internship, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks that listeners out there might want to know about?
Guys, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group called Nox. That's NOX ! You can find tickets and showtimes witdc.org. And I'm always on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis.
And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com. If you're interested in finding out more about this show right here, head on over to Patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can also find us on our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Check us out on Twitter at MorningTunes. Take a look at Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep the conversation going on Facebook, and listen to our free audio podcasts each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you have a suggestion for a future episode or just want to talk about Black Panther with us some more, send us an email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. What's coming up next? I feel real good. We've got like a high point of Marvel May. It can only be solid gold content from here on out.
Do you really think that we're going to keep up
it's
with
gotta be
solid
gold
content?
They can't, like, why would we backpedal? It can't be worse.
I mean, we could.
Can we?
We could go back in time.
Back in time.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. We could keep singing. This could become a karaoke
Nah, let's not do
podcast.
that. I don't think the people out there would like that.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to go back in time,
we
but
could
before
go...
that, I mean, technically we're going back in time twice, but...
No, I mean, fair enough. I mean, we're always going back in time.
We rarely talk about cartoons that haven't come out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Future is a tough gig.
guys, we're gonna harness the power of future sooner or later. Yeah, we could go back in time and we could do a character that was actually came back thanks to some studios figuring out some licensing bullshit and was in a recent movie with the Black Panther.
That will be one, but we won't get to him for 2 weeks. We got another one coming up before that.
We've got a really bad one then coming up.
Real bad one.
It's gonna be really, really bad, guys.
And we're gonna have special guest Evan Valentine, most likely joining us for the show as well. So
this is gonna be a hold on to your butts.
It is a hold on to your butts episode. So with that in mind, thank you for listening to Black
shit.
Panther and Saturday Morning Cartoons. We will see you next time. Thanks.
Hey everybody, thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.